All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to our September 21st, 2021 regular council meeting. We do have a lengthy agenda today, so I will be asking everyone to stick to the time allotted, and we'll try and get through this. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order and remind everyone of the cell phones. If you could place them on vibrate, that would help later in the meeting so we don't get disturbed. And I'll remind everybody of the declaration of pecuniary interest. If it arises, you can declare it now, or if something pops up later, make sure you declare it then. We have minutes here from the regular council meeting of September 7th. I'll look for a motion to receive those minutes. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. Questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried. With that, I'll look for a motion to go into the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendments. Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux. And do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. So we do have 3 zoning bylaw amendments. And the first one here is a zoning bylaw amendment for Jason and Annette Vance. This is a statutory meeting held under Section 34 of the Planning Act. The owners applicants are Jason and Annette Vance. The property is described as part of Lot 30, Concession 1, being 1, 2, and 3 of a registered plan 45R 4119, having a municipal address of 166 Fire Road 57, Belmont Ward, having the property roll number of 1531-010-006-14100 and 1531-010-006-14003. Any person may attend the public meeting and/or make verbal or written representation, either in support or in opposition of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Please keep your video off and the microphone muting during the meeting until I invite you for comments regarding the planning matter. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added to as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. If you wish to be notified of the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. With that, I'll turn it over to our planners. And Alicia, are you doing this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am. Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, through you, Mr. Mayor Martin, I'd like to wish everybody a good morning. And yeah, we'll just head into the first application today. So this is an application for zoning bylaw amendment, and it's for property owners Jason and Annette Vance. The purpose and effect of this application is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 1995-42 as amended in order to permit the redevelopment of the property with a new single detached seasonal residential dwelling while also introducing certain site-specific regulations. So overall, the development that's planned for this site is to remove the existing building on site and replace it with a new dwelling, as well as a new septic system and a new well. Currently, the lot doesn't provide sufficient enough room for both the septic system that's being proposed and the new cottage to be located outside of the high watermark setback. So as a result, we worked closely with the applicants and found a location for the cottage to be located slightly further into the high watermark setback but in an attempt to ensure that the septic system could actually be located outside of the high watermark setback to improve functionality and safety for the site overall. And overall, the redevelopment would represent an improvement to the current high watermark and front yard setbacks. So the property's address, as you mentioned, is 166 Fire Route 57, roll number 1531 010 006 The property is in the Belmont ward and is 0.4 acres. It's zoned seasonal residential and designated shoreline in the official plan. My recommendation is that, subject to any new information or public comments received prior to or at statutory public meeting, that this application should be passed as presented. So as I previously mentioned in my brief little summary there to council to get a gist of what's being proposed, the applicants for this application are requesting permission to redevelop their property with a new seasonal residential dwelling. And in the event that that permission is granted, the existing dwelling on the property would be demolished. I would like to bring to council's attention that in error, the report states at one point that there's an attached garage proposed as part of the development. And I would like to clarify that there is already an existing detached garage on the property and that no attached garage is proposed for this development. So for the new dwelling, the dwelling is proposed to be set back 26 meters from the high water mark, and there will be a new deck attached to that as well, which will be set back 24 meters from the high water mark. And currently existing, the setback is 22 meters. The proposed dwelling will have a ground floor area of 129 square meters approximately, which will include a 25 square meter screened-in porch. And the dwelling itself will be 7.3 meters high. It will include 2 uncovered decks of approximately 62 square meters and 11 square meters, one each. And the new development will be mostly contained to the front, the footprint of the existing building. But as I mentioned, it will be further set back from the water and the high water mark than the existing building currently is. This application is also being submitted with an application for a lot addition via consent, being file B5521, which is planned to be discussed later today in this session of council. The lands proposed to be conveyed into this property are zoned rural, and they're identified by roll number 1531 010 006 14003. And the purpose of conveying those lands is to actually provide sufficient land for that new septic system as part of the redevelopment. So as I mentioned before, that new septic system is proposed to be located beyond the new cottage outside of the high water mark. And it's important to note that the shoreline setbacks from the proposed dwelling and the septic system will be improved overall from what's currently existing on the property, as currently the septic system is within the high water setback. So we did work closely with the applicant to decide on a strategic location for the cottage to ensure that development would be as safe as possible and that sufficient land could be provided for that septic system. In support of the development, a scoped environmental impact study was prepared, and that stated that any potential environmental impacts would be limited to the temporary construction associated with that redevelopment of the new cottage, and through a variety of recommended mitigation measures, those potential impacts could be further reduced. And the study indicated that the very few trees that are proposed to be removed as a result of the redevelopment are young, immature cedars, and no ecological impact is anticipated from their removal. So following our review and assessment of this application within the context of the relevant land use planning policies, it's our opinion that the subject application conforms to the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the County of Peterborough official plan, the Township official plan, and is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Public notice was posted on site and mailed to surrounding property owners in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. And the application has been circulated to relevant agencies, and comments have been received from the Crow Valley Conservation Authority and the County of Peterborough Public Health Unit, both of which have identified no concerns with the proposed development. No comments have been received from members of the public at this time. Overall, it is my recommendation that this application be approved.
All right, thank you, Alicia. With that, I'll open it up here. Is there anybody wishing to speak against this application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak against this application? The third time. Anybody wishing to speak against? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? I do see the Vances on here. I don't know if they have anything to add. Hearing none. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? Third time. Anybody wishing to speak in favor? All right, I'll open it up to council. Do you have any questions or comments? Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to comment that I believe that this is a good example of representing good planning. And I would move that we approve the recommendation from the planning department.
All right then, so I do have a mover. Is there a seconder for that resolution? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy seconds it. Any comments or questions from council? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of the resolution? And that's carried. Okay, thank you, Alicia. Our second zoning application here is John and Geraldine Elliott. And once again, this is a statutory meeting held under Section 34 of the Planning Act. The owner and applicants are John and Geraldine Elliott. The property is described as Lot 8 and 9, Concession 7, having a municipal address of 594 Fire Road 93A, Methuen Ward, excuse me, having a property roll number of 153101000900400. Any persons may attend this public meeting and or make verbal or written representation either in support of or opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, the proposed zoning bylaw, before the zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the council of the corporation of the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. If you wish to be notified of the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make written request to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. I'll turn it back over to our planner. And is it you, is it Daryl taking this one?
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, council and staff. The purpose of this report is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend the township's comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to, first off, rectify the existing zoning on the property, as well as permit a year-round dwelling on a private road, while also permitting the construction of a detached garage, gym, workshop, being 2 stories, comprising a total floor area of 1,200 square feet, as well as a detached storage Quonset hut with a ground floor area of 625 square feet. Council, I'm able to confirm that notice of this statutory public meeting was given to all property owners within 120 meters by first-class mail. The property was posted. Notice was circulated to prescribed ministries and agencies, as well as posted on the township's website, all on August 31st, 2021. Comments received in response to the circulation have been limited to Crow Valley Conservation Authority, who have indicated no concerns. As indicated by Mayor Martin, the property is located in part lots 8 and 9, concession 7. It's in the Methuen Ward on the south shore of Cashbog Lake. It's designated shoreline in the township's official plan. Shoreline areas and waterfront in the county official plan. The property is currently zoned open space, and it comprises a land area of 1.9 acres with a little over 200 feet of linear shoreline on the lake. The existing form of development consists of a single-story detached cottage comprising a total floor area of 1,136 square feet. It does have a wraparound lakeside deck. The setback to the high water mark currently is 34 feet. It does have a setback to the corresponding deck of 22.7 feet. Accessory structures on the property are limited to a small storage shed. The current owners who've owned the property since 2016 have made application which, subject to approval, would first of all rectify the zoning on the property. Also recognize the property and the existing dwelling for year-round permanent use. As well, permit a two-story garage, gym, workshop comprising a ground floor area of 1,200 square feet with a reduced side yard setback of less than 6 feet and a proposed height of 26 feet, as well as permit a second accessory storage Quonset hut comprising a ground floor area of 625 feet with a reduced side yard of approximately 8 feet. Both the proposed accessory storage units structures would be beyond the 30-meter setback or 100-foot setback of the shoreline. Mr. Mayor, members of council, based on our planning review, staff do have concerns with the magnitude of the development and the non-conformity with the official plan, as well as a failure to maintain the spirit and intent of the zoning bylaw. Specifically, the total accessory buildings, if permitted, would comprise 1,825 square foot of ground floor area, which is actually 60% larger than the dwelling itself. And that poses significant concerns to staff in terms of reconciling what continues to be the principal or the main use on the property. That is clearly contrary to official plan policy. Therefore, we're recommending that the application be referred back to staff in order to allow the owner applicant to consider options for addressing planning issues which we've identified. Those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Daryl. Well, I'll go through the process here and I'll ask if there's anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to the application. For a second time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Third time, anybody in opposition? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? I don't know if the applicants are on here. If they are, they can add anything if they like. Second time, anybody in favor of this application?
Sorry, is there a concern on the size of the buildings being added to the property?
That's what we just heard, yeah.
So if the buildings were reduced in size, would that kind of meet with what the township is looking for?
Daryl, if you can help us here as far as our official plan, go ahead.
Through the chair, the current zoning bylaw maximum for accessory buildings in this instance would be 1,000 square feet.
1,000 square feet. Okay. So if I adjusted the plans to refer to that, well, within that 1,000 square feet, we don't have any issues?
Certainly, through the chair, we'd be pleased to discuss that with you, Mr. Elliott, as well as take a look at whatever alternate proposal you might be able to provide to us.
Okay, I have no problem if we have to adjust to suit that limitation. We can go ahead and do that offline.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right then. So I've called the in opposition and in favor. So I'm going to open it up to council here. The recommendation is that we defer this and let the planner work with the owners here. Deputy Mayor Giroux, you have a comment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm prepared to move the recommendation, but I do have a question for Daryl. Mr. Ty.
Okay.
In order to permit a year-round dwelling, Mr. Ty, will we have a draft proposal of an agreement to make this a year-round dwelling because this is a fire road?
Through the chair, yes, to Councillor Giroux, the approach that staff would be recommending would be in order to consider a year-round dwelling on a fire route. First of all, we're guided by the policies of the official plan. Secondly, the property owner would be required to enter into a private road access agreement with the township acknowledging that no services of a public road nature would be provided to that fire road. And so it would therefore be the applicant's responsibility. And I believe that is consistent with what has been sought in the past.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that, Mr. Ty. So I am prepared to move the recommendation.
All right then, moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that we go with the recommendation. Do I have a seconder?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Ellis. Any other questions or comments with regards to this application? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Okay, thank you, Daryl. We'll look forward to that coming back. Our third zoning bylaw amendment is Wayne and Pam Luna. Hopefully I pronounced that right. This is a statutory meeting held under Section 34 of the Planning Act. The owners applicants are Wayne and Pam Luna. The property is described as part of Lot 31, Concession 1, having a municipal address 32 Fire Route 57, Belmont Ward, having a property roll number of 153101000618700. And once again, any persons may attend the public meeting or make verbal or written representation either in support or opposition of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. If you wish to be notified of the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Daryl.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose and effect of this application or report is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend the Township's comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to amend the existing zone being SD 203 to permit an addition to the existing cottage together with an increase in height, as well as an addition to the existing garage together with an increase in height of the accessory building. I'm able to confirm for council that notice of this statutory public meeting was given to all property owners within 120 meters. The property was posted, prescribed administrative agencies were circulated, as well as the notice being posted on the website, all on August 31st, 2021. No comments were received in response to that circulation. As indicated by Mayor Martin, the property is located in part lot 21, concession 1 in the Belmont Ward, and it's located on the east shore of Cordova Lake. It is designated shoreline in the township's official plan, and shoreline areas and waterfront in the county official plan, and is currently zoned SD 203. As a reminder to council, this property was the subject of a successful rezoning to SD 203 back in July 2018. And as indicated in the report, the proposed redevelopment of the property at that time did not proceed. The lot area is 0.4 acres. The shoreline frontage is 161.75 feet. The property is currently developed in the form of a one-story single detached cottage or dwelling comprising a ground floor area of 1,039.8 square feet. It does have a wraparound lakeside deck. The current water yard setback to the cottage is 13.6 feet, and accessory structures comprise a detached garage of 506 square feet, and it's set back 84 feet from the shoreline. If approved, the proposed development would comprise, firstly, an addition to the rear of the dwelling of approximately 574 square feet, an addition of a second story to the cottage which would increase the height to 25.1 feet and 3,228 square feet in gross floor area. There is a new septic system proposed, which is to be located 93.2 feet from the shoreline. And the addition to the existing garage comprises 806 square feet. With a second story, the increased height of the garage would total 21.57 feet. All of the proposed development combined with the existing development would increase the lot coverage from 14% to 17.5%. On the basis of our planning review and in consideration of the 2018 rezoning of the property, we have concluded this application forms all relevant land use policy, is consistent with the PPS, and therefore represents good planning. Accordingly, subject to any new information or public comments coming forward this morning, our recommendation to council is that you proceed to pass the bylaw as presented. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. So I'll open it up. Is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition to this application? For the second time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? And third time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? I'm not sure if the applicant's on here, but if there's anything they'd like to add, now's the time to do it. Okay, second time, anybody in favor? And third time, anybody in favor of the application? Okay, I'll open it up to council. What's your thoughts here? We do have a recommendation there. Councillor Webb?
I'll just make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the planner.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. And is there any questions or comments to it? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So I'll look for a motion to go back into the public meeting.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moved by Councillor Ellis, seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. And what's your thoughts on, there's two bylaws here that we have to deal with. Did you want to deal with them now and get them out of the way? If so, put your hand up. So Councillor Ellis. So with the first bylaw we had here was a zoning bylaw amendment for number 1995-42. It was the Vance zoning bylaw amendment. What's council's thoughts here?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would move the bylaw be approved.
Okay, it's moved by Councillor Ellis, seconded by Councillor Webb. Questions or comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, and our second bylaw amendment, zoning bylaw amendment is 1995-42 as amended for the Llano property. Llano, sorry. So what's your thoughts here, council? Somebody want to move that bylaw?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councillor Webb. Do I have a seconder? Okay. No seconder for it.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move into minor variances with Deputy Mayor Giroux in the chair. I'll look for a motion to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Giroux, moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. So go ahead, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Good, my microphone on here. Thank you, Mayor Martin. I now call the Committee of Adjustment meeting to order and remind the members of the committee of our requirement to disclose any pecuniary interest and then the general nature thereof if the occasion should arise. This is a public meeting held under Section 45 of the Planning Act and its regulations. And we have a few minor variances to go through. And I will just remind council that there was an addendum to the minor variances, so bear with me. There were some on my computer and some on paper. So I will now ask our planner consultant to provide the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the first report that's going to be discussed today for minor variance is file A1121. And this application is for the development of a 2-story detached garage with recreational space in above on the 2nd floor in place of 2 existing accessory structures. And the replacement of the existing 2 accessory structures with the 1 accessory structure will overall improve lot coverage on the property. Initially, there were some concerns with the lack of potential privacy for the applicant's neighbor and the applicant themselves as a result of the proximity to the neighboring property and the 2nd-story deck that's associated with the detached garage. However, those have been mitigated through conditions that have been included in the planning report, such as through measures of prohibiting windows on the north side yard side of the building and the inclusion of a privacy fence in order to ensure that privacy is maintained for both the applicant and the neighboring property. Additionally, in order to satisfy the drainage concerns that could have arisen on the property, we will be requiring that a grading plan be submitted at the building permit stage to ensure that any runoff from the building, any stormwater is kept and maintained on site. So that's our brief little overview, and now I'll get into the nitty-gritty of the property information, which is as follows. The property owners are Scott and Cynthia White, and the agent representing the property owners and applicants is Bob Prins. The property address is 208 Fire Route 33, roll number 1531000311700. The property is 0.42 acres. It's zoned seasonal residential and it's designated shoreline by the township's official plan and is within the Belmont ward. The purpose of this minor variance application is to seek relief from section 4.1C, 4.1E3, and section 11.2.1G to permit the demolition of the 2 buildings and the construction of a new garage with an upper floor and a deck. The upper floor will have a home office, bathroom, and gym area, and the applicant has requested relief for a reduced minimum side yard depth and an increased maximum height for an accessory building. An additional variance has also been included for lot coverage, and the application will have the following effects, which is 1, to reduce the minimum side yard for an accessory building or structure to 1.3 meters, where 3 meters is required. The second effect is to increase the maximum height for an accessory building to 6.7 meters, where 4.5 meters is required. And the third is to increase the maximum permitted lot coverage to 20%, where 15% is permitted. The recommendation is that the minor variance application A1121 for the construction of a detached garage be approved with the following conditions. That the development be completed in accordance with the site plan submitted, that no windows be installed on the north side of the proposed structure, that the upper level deck include a privacy screen at a minimum height of 5 feet or 1.5 meters facing the property to the north, which is that property with the reduced side yard, that side yard that's reduced, that any requisite approval be received by applicable approval authorities prior to the building permit being issued, that a grading plan that demonstrates stormwater will be contained within the property limits be submitted with the application for building permit, that a building permit be issued within 12 months of the approval of this application, and upon submission to the building department of the appropriate application, fees and supporting information as required by the chief building official, and that the balance of the information in this report be received. So as noted, the application is to permit the replacement of the 2 existing accessory buildings with a new 96 square meter detached garage with an upper floor area and an 11 square meter deck that comes off of the 2nd story. And that upper floor will be used as a home office, gym, sort of recreational area. The application will overall improve the existing lot coverage than what's currently existing, and the development will allow for an improved use and enjoyment of the property. The new detached garage will also require variances for height and a side yard setback. Overall, the application meets the 4 tests for a minor variance, is in keeping with the provincial policy statement and meets the intent of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. As such, it is my recommendation that this application be approved. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alicia, for your report. Is the applicant present with us today? For the record? All right then, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application? I'll call it one more time. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Alicia, can you confirm that the budding property owners were notified of the minor variance?
Yes, so on September 10th, the signs were posted on the property and all of the surrounding properties in accordance with the Planning Act were notified by mail.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? No comments? Councillor Webb?
Well, I'm just going to make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the planner.
Thank you, Councillor Webb. We have a mover and Mayor Martin is going to second the motion. Any more comments? I'll now call the motion. All those in favor? That motion is approved. Thank you. Now we had an addendum and the same rules apply. This public meeting is held under Section 45 of the Planning Act and its regulations. And I believe this is application. You can verify the number for me, Alicia.
For the, it was for A1121 as well.
Thank you. Okay,
Yes, yeah.
go ahead.
And so just to confirm, Mr. Chair, is that addendum speaking to the resubmitted planning report for this application?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So that being said, everything that I did include in the presentation for file A1121 was related to the information that was provided in the addendum. So that was for the condition for the drainage plan to be submitted at the building permit stage. My apologies for not clarifying.
I just wanted to clear that up for all council and myself. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
And we will carry on then with the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. So through you, Mr. Chair, the next file being discussed is for file A1321. And the applicant of this application wishes to replace an existing shed on their site, or on their property rather, with a slightly larger shed further away from the high water mark than the current existing shed does sit. The location has been chosen to ensure that no interference with the existing septic or parking area on the property occurs, and that there would be little interference with the trees nearby. The applicant specifically chose that area so they didn't have to remove trees. And the applicant's main dwelling actually currently does exist within the high watermark setback. And the proposed shed that's going to be replacing the current shed will be located behind that dwelling, which therefore isn't going to be worsening the high watermark setback any on the property. And the detailed property and application information is as follows. So the property owner is William Leslie Brown, and the property address is 131 Fire Route 23F. Roll number 153101000333008. The property is 0.3 acres, is zoned seasonal residential and designated shoreline by the Township's official plan and is within the Belmont ward. So the purpose of this minor variance application is to seek relief from section 4.1E3, section 4.37, and section 11.2.1C to permit the construction of an approximately 20 square meter shed. The application will have the following effects. One being the reduction of the minimum required side yard setback from an accessory structure from 3 meters to 2.4 meters, reducing the minimum required water yard setback from 30 meters to the existing 19.8 meters, and reducing the minimum required front yard setback from 21.3 meters to 19.8 meters, which is the same as the is currently existing for the current shed on the site that's being replaced. The recommendation is that the minor variance application A1321 for the construction of the 20-meter squared shed be approved with the following conditions: that the application be completed in accordance with the site plan submitted, that any requisite approval be received by applicable approval authorities prior to the building permit being issued, that a building permit be issued within 12 months of the approval of this application, and upon submission to the building department of the appropriate application, fees and supporting information as required by the chief building official, and that the balance of the information in this report be received. So as I previously noted, this application is to permit the construction of a 20.4 meter square shed. And it's going to be replaced in an existing shed that's located 17.63 meters from the high water mark and the front lot line. And the shed is proposed in the same location as the existing shed is to be removed, and it's just slightly larger. And the existing dwelling on the property, it should be noted, is closer to the high water mark and the front lot line than this new proposed shed. So the shed is being located to the rear of the dwelling that's existing. The new shed does require a minor variance from the minimum required side yard setback, and the other variances recognize the current existing deficiencies from the zoning bylaw that already exist on the property. And this application meets the 4 tests for a minor variance. It's in keeping with the provincial policy statement, and it does meet the intent of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. As such, it is my recommendation that this application be approved.
Once again, thank you, Alicia. For the record, is the applicant present with us today? I guess not. Is there anyone with us wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Anyone speaking in opposition to this application? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Hearing none, are there any questions or comments from the members of the Committee of Adjustment? Councillor Ellis?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor Giroux. I would make a motion that we approve this recommendation following the guidelines from our planning department.
All right, Councillor Ellis has moved this recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy is going to second the motion. Is there any more comments, questions on the motion? I'm going to call a motion. All in favor of the motion? This motion is approved. Thank you for that one, Alicia. Now we'll go on to, I believe it's A14.
You got it. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you, the next file that will be discussed is A1421, as you mentioned. And for this application, the applicant would like to connect their front and rear decks that are currently existing via a new side deck to increase the functionality and accessibility on their property. And the proposed new deck will be set back further than the existing front deck from the high watermark setback. The property owner is Karen Sue McLean. The property address is 80 Fire Route 75L, roll number 153100100904800. The property is 0.3 acres. It's zoned seasonal residential and designated shoreline by the township's official plan and is in with the Methuen Ward. The purpose of this minor variance application is to seek relief from section 4.37, section 11.2.1C, section 11.2.1D, and section 11.2.1G to permit the construction of a 200 square foot deck extension that connects the existing front and rear decks. The applicant has requested relief for a minimum reduced setback from any building or structure from the high water mark. And through staff review, additional variances were identified that would require relief for the development. And these additional variances are for a reduced front yard depth, reduced side yard depth, and an increased maximum lot coverage. So the application will have the following effects, which is to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark to 2.7 meters where 30 meters is required, reducing the minimum front yard depth to 2.7 meters where 21.3 meters is required, reducing the minimum side yard depth to 0.9 meters where 6 meters is required, and increasing the maximum lot coverage to 20% where 15% is required. And the recommendation is that the minor variance application A1421 for the construction of a deck extension in the side yard be approved with the following conditions: that the development be completed in accordance with the site plan submitted, that any requisite approval be received by applicable approval authorities prior to the building permit being issued, that a building permit be issued within 12 months of the approval of this application, and upon submission to the building department of the appropriate application, fees and supporting information as required by the chief building official, and the balance of this report, the information in this report be received. So just to reiterate, the application is to permit the property owner to construct a 10-foot by 20-foot or a 200 square foot covered deck extension, and that would connect the existing front deck and the existing rear deck, which would allow improved accessibility between the two decks and around the dwelling effectively. The proposed deck extension will be 2.7 meters from the existing high water mark and the front lot line. The deck extension will have 0.9 meters of separation from the side lot line. Relief is also required to permit a higher maximum lot coverage of 20%, where 15% is required. And it should be noted that the existing building with the two decks in the front and rear yard currently does not comply with the zoning bylaw provisions for the seasonal residential zone, and they will retain legal non-compliance status. Thus, the application meets the 4 tests for a minor variance. It is in keeping with the provincial policy statement, and it meets the intent of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. As such, it is my recommendation that this application be approved.
Thank you, Alicia, for that report. I will ask, is the applicant present for our records this morning?
Yes.
Thank you. That'll be duly noted. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? And I'm going to ask you again, Alicia, because of the proximity of the lot lines and so on, the abutting landowners have been notified in the provided time period?
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you, I can confirm that similar to the other applications, this sign was posted on the property on September 10th, and the surrounding neighbors were notified by mail.
Thank you. Is it, where am I? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? If you have anything to say, the applicant has anything to say further to the Alicia's report? Are there any questions or comments from the member of the Committee of Adjustment? Deputy Member or Mayor Martin?
Yeah, hearing everything that I've heard, I would be prepared to make a motion that we approve this minor variance.
We have a mover through Mayor Martin on this application. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded with a question, Deputy Mayor Gerald.
Go ahead, Councillor Ellis, you have the floor.
And thank you. On one of the diagrams, it's handwritten there where it says front foundation is on a rock ledge 8 feet high from the water, 8 feet high from the water. Sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words, and sometimes we get pictures included in the reports. Could you just explain what they mean by that comment?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to explain. So the applicant has, as you noted through the drawings and through conversation with Township planning staff, has indicated that their dwelling and the decks are actually located quite high above the waterfront. So that 8 feet is a vertical distance to confirm that. So it's just sitting up on the rock face.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? I'll now call the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Raise them high. Motion is approved. Thank you, Alicia. I believe that concludes all the minor variances, and I will go ahead, Bob.
No, through you, Mr. Chair, there is one more, A1221, which was the additional sent through the revised agenda. And
Okay.
planning consultant, Mr. Ty, will present that one.
Yes, I have that now. Thank you for that, Bob. That's where my addendum come in. So Mr. Ty, if you would present.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor Juro. This application is in the name of Tom Newton. The property in question is located in Lot 1, Concession 10, having municipal address 2606 County Road 42. The purpose of the minor variance application before the committee this morning is to seek relief from the provisions of the Township's comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to legally recognize an undersized lot, which was created by the Peterborough County Land Division Committee and otherwise satisfy a condition of consent. As proposed, the approval of the application would permit relief from section 522 subsection A and subsection B of 552 of the bylaw, which would permit the reduction of both lot frontage and lot area of the subject property from 150 feet to 100 feet and from 0.75 acres to 0.64 acres. The property was previously severed according to consent application B 1921, and the intent of that application was to sever or resever a property that became previously merged as a consequence of inadvertence. At the time of the submission of the application to sever, the proposed lot was considered to be deficient both area and lot frontage within the agricultural zone. Was therefore recommended as a condition of the provisional consent requested by the township, then a minor variance be successfully applied after the severance of the property was granted provisional consent. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we reviewed the application within the context of the four tests of minor variance. Yeah, in our opinion, the application is consistent with the PPS and the growth plan. It's consistent with the County of Peterborough official plan. In addition, it also meets the spirit and intent of the township's official plan with respect to the zoning bylaw and maintaining the general interest and purpose. The property was previously severed in order to remedy a previous merger. The resulting severed property, which is the subject of the illustration or sketch attached to our report, fails to meet the minimum requirements of the township zoning bylaw with respect to frontage and area. Well, the lot is considered to be undersized. The purpose of the application is to legally recognize an undersized lot, which is permitted within the agricultural zone and which was created by Land Division and previously supported by Township Council. The application, as proposed, in our opinion, therefore upholds the spirit and intent of the zoning bylaw. Is it desirable and appropriate for the use of this application? It's considered to be desirable and appropriate given that the Land Division Committee has created this property. The proposed development poses no further deviation or reduction to any setbacks since there's no development on the property, but it otherwise enhances the utility of the property as proposed and otherwise restores what previously existed. In our opinion, the four tests of the Planning Act have been successfully addressed, and therefore we recommend that the committee consider granting the minor variance as proposed. Those are my comments.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Ty. For the record, is the applicant present this morning?
Yes, I'm representing my father-in-law.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application this morning? Anyone in opposition of this application? And is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Pretty straightforward, this one, I do believe. Is there any questions or comments from the members of the Committee of Adjustment? Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor Giroux, as you say, this is very straightforward, so I'd make a motion that we approve the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Ayers. We have a mover and Mayor Martin will second the motion. Is there any more questions or comments on the motion? Speak to the motion. I'm going to call the motion. All those in favor? That motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Ty, and thank the Committee of Adjustment. And I will now ask the gavel be turned back over to the mayor to complete the rest of the meeting. Councillor Webb and Councillor Pomeroy. All those in favor? That motion is approved. Turn the gavel back over to you, Mayor Martin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Duro. With that, we'll move into our next item on the agenda for the public meeting is planning reports. And we have a planning report here with regards to the lot addition on B5521. Alicia, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Martin. So through you, the application that was briefly mentioned earlier during the session of council for its relation to the zoning bylaw amendment application for Jason and Annette Vance, who would like to add some land to their property to provide that sufficient space for their new septic system, which would be located outside of the high watermark setback. The application is titled B5521, and as mentioned, it is a lot addition via consent. The property does not currently have a municipal address and is identified as roll number 153101006140003. This property is 5.38 acres, is zoned rural, and is designated shoreline by the Township official plan. And the property is in the Belmont ward. My recommendation is that council advise Peterborough County Land Division Committee that the township endorses an application for consent to sever lands for lot addition, and that the associated application for zoning bylaw amendment for the lands to be identified as Special District 244 or SD 244 be reviewed in conjunction with the application for lot addition. The applicants are requesting permission to sever a 0.17 acre portion from the subject property to be added to the abutting property located at 166 Fire Route 57, roll number 153101000614100. And the purpose of adding the proposed lands to the property, as I mentioned, is to provide that sufficient space for a new septic system to be located outside of the high watermark setback. And locating the new septic system outside of that high watermark setback does enhance the functionality of the benefiting parcel and meets the intent of the township official plan and the county official plan. As both the severed and retained parcels appear to be undersized for the rural zone, the aforementioned application for zoning bylaw amendment is required to rezone that severed parcel in the shoreline zone to be consistent with the zone for the benefiting lands and to address the lot area deficiencies of the retained parcel. The application is associated with, as I've mentioned, application for zoning bylaw amendment for the lands to be identified as Special District 244 or SD 244, and that was discussed earlier during this council session. Public notice was posted on site and mailed to surrounding property owners in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, and the application has been circulated to relevant agencies, and comments have been received both from the Crow Valley Conservation Authority and the County of Peterborough Public Health Unit, both of which identified no concerns with the proposed development, and no comments have been received from members of the public at this time. Thus, it is my recommendation that this application be endorsed by council to the Peterborough County Land Division Committee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alicia. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward and it does tie in with the previous item on the agenda. So what's council's thoughts here? Councillor Webb?
I'll just make a motion that we go with the recommendation of the planner to move ahead with this.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Webb that we go with the recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. Any questions or comments to the motion? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Alicia. The next item we have on the agenda is the public meeting presentation with regards to boathouses, and I'll turn it back to you. Okay, Mike.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Martin. I'll be presenting this matter. I did have a presentation. I wasn't sure if you want to pull it up or if you want me to summarize. I'm happy to do either method.
It might be best for the public that are on here. They can see it if it's on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, we will share the screen. Mike will share the screen from our end, and you can just walk us through it.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, well, thank you again for the invitation to present this matter to the committee today, the council. And you'll know we've been chatting about this for some time. And what I'm presenting to you today is our recommendation report as it relates to the on-land boathouses. Next slide, please. So just briefly, as a recap from our meeting from July 6th, at that meeting, council directed staff and us, the planning consultants, to sever the two activities here. So we have the boathouse matter, and we had the matter of capacity status for Jack Lake. And at that motion, the capacity status has been moved off so that it will proceed with the county's new official plan in the year 2022. So that means we're totally focused today on the boathouse prohibition. Next slide, please. So this again goes back to 2019, where council directed staff to undertake a study to determine the limitations for dry land boathouses. And certainly one of the influencing items in terms of where we've landed with this was a survey that was provided by the Lake and Cottage Associations, where there was a desire for a general ban on the dry land boathouses. So after we reviewed this matter earlier this year, and we looked at neighboring municipalities in particular, we found for consistency reasons and for environmental and visual reasons that it would be a wise move to move toward the banning of the dry land boathouses, which are most often located within the high water setback, and would interfere with those natural shorelines. Next slide, please. So earlier this year, as we were gathering our public information that came out of the public meetings, we proceeded with an option report to give council a series of options in terms of how we could proceed, and that was really where we moved toward separating the capacity from the boathouse matter. And in our report, we have a detailed table that responds to all of the public comments that were received in terms of the motions that are requested later in this presentation. Next slide, please. So there are two amendments proposed, and they're very, very simple language amendments. The first is a new section to the official plan, and this would specifically prohibit the on-land boathouses on Jack Lake, while the second set of changes is to your zoning bylaw, and there are two clauses to be added that again, first clarify that boathouses would be the on-land boathouses and the on-water boathouses, which are already prohibited, would be prohibited on Jack Lake in particular. And then there's a clause that does recognize, obviously, that there are probably many legal non-conforming or right now legal conforming even boathouses, and those boathouses would remain, and if they're damaged, they could be repaired and strengthened, so that to give folks the understanding that if they already have one of these items, they will have the ability to maintain it. Next slide, please. This is really more of a context slide, since the previous slide is really just words on a page that are maybe a little harder to understand. The official plan policy is a new standalone policy, so it gets added to the official plan, while the zoning bylaw policies are added to the existing marine facility structures. And you can see the new policies that we're proposing, letter D and E, added in red text. And that just gives you the overall context for the zoning related regulations as it relates to marine facilities. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, the recommendation is that council adopt the official plan amendment and pass it on to the county for approval, and to approve the zoning bylaw amendment, which would prohibit the development of on-land boathouses. And the other aspect of the motion is to inform the county that the township will not be proceeding with the capacity amendments, and is seeking the county to address those matters in their new official plan. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that may have arisen.
All right, thank you. I'll open it up to council. This is something that a lot of people are watching, and I know other lakes are actually interested in this also. So it's a start. So council, have you got any questions or comments around this? Been a long time coming. The only question I had, Mike, is by putting this in place, there's still a time lag. Is there any anything stopping a big rush of boathouses between now and when the official plan is supposed to be passed in the spring? Does this cover that?
Yeah, yes, to you, Mayor Martin, the fact that you're the approval authority for the zoning bylaw amendment will actually stop the boathouses immediately. And the follow-up with the county approval is really just because most people read official plans, and for consistency, we put a policy in the official plan as well for absolute clarity. But pending any appeals, the zoning amendment would come in effect subject to your approval.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll open up to council. Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Excuse me, excuse me again. Just for clarification or understanding. So we are talking outside of Sharps Bay now, we're talking the whole of Jack's Lake. And we have several other lakes in the township. And we're using the better shoreline. We're using the reason we're not as a better shoreline. We're using it for view and so on. So if we're going to go outside of Jack's Lake, Sharps Bay, I think we should be all very conscious of the matter that we're going to use these for our reason for not limiting this to Sharps Bay. It could take in the rest of the municipality. So it's just a comment that I'm making. Thank you.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, for clarification as well, Deputy Mayor Giroux, the boathouse prohibition applies to the entirety of Jack's Lake. So it's, arguably a stepping stone for your other lakes, because I can tell you, we heard from a number of people that said, why can't you apply this to my lake as well? So I think you will probably experience some pressure from some of the other lakes that would like similar prohibitions on their lake, but this is a start, and it makes sense because Jack's Lake is shared with your neighboring municipality who already prohibits boathouses. So it's the whole lake. It's not just Sharps Bay. It would be a prohibition broadly on the lake.
I think that was the key here is North Kawartha has it already in place, and I think that's why it's come forward so strongly on Jack's Lake. So did that answer your question, Deputy Mayor Giroux?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it certainly answers the question, but it doesn't get rid of the problem. So I'm just saying, if a neighbor on Jack's Lake, on the whole of Jack's Lake, opposes a boathouse because they can't see it, it's not going to be any different on Round Lake or Belmont Lake or Kosh Lake. I'm just saying, you're going to have the builders in the country. I just want you to be aware of that. That's all. Just a comment.
So this zoning bylaw amendment is just for Jack's Lake right now. The others may come forward and they'll have to prove their case, but, okay, so is there any other comments there from council or questions for clarification here? Because Deputy Mayor Joe is right. It's a big step. We haven't done this before, but it's something that a lot of people were looking for. And I think the big reason was North Fourth already had it in place. So is there any other comments, questions? If not, I'll look for a motion one way or the other here. There is a recommendation there. Councillor Webb, go ahead.
I make a motion that we go ahead with the prohibition of boathouses on Jack's Lake.
All right, so I have a mover. Do I have a seconder for that?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Ellis. Any questions or comments to the motion? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. All right, thank you. The next on here is the I guess that the recommendation for the boathouse is there, Mike or Alicia?
Starting my video again. Yes, so our recommendation would be, I believe you've covered it there with your motion, which would be to approve the zoning bylaw amendment and adopt the official plan amendment recommendations and pass those to the county for approval.
All right, so did that motion cover that, or do you need another one here?
My understanding was that motion covered it. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. So that's all the planning reports we had for today.
We had a long time with you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right then. Well, thank you, everyone. We're going to move into delegations and presentations now. I'm just going to catch up here. The first delegation we have here is with Enbridge Gas and Ian Moses. Ian, are you there? Oh, Bob, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin, our Enbridge delegation had to move along. They will reschedule due to another time commitment. So we can move on to delegation number 2.
Okay. All right. I know they're trying to squeeze a bunch of councils in with Peterborough County right now, and I know they had a couple today. So that's fine. We'll look forward to another day. So our next delegation or scheduled delegation is Pat Patterson with regards to the old town hall. Pat, are you there?
Are we on?
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Good day.
We're here today as a small committee, Mr. Mayor. We want to represent the midweek jammers and also the town hall Havelock. And of course, everybody's anxious to get back to playing and on Wednesdays. And yesterday, I think there was a mention somewhere it could have been a rumor that maybe we'd be able to use the upper part of the Lane Center. I don't know whether that's true, Mr. Mayor, or not, but I guess maybe you guys would have to answer that.
Yeah, we have been working on alternatives because we are into some problems with the town hall with regards to the ramp and things around, a whole bunch of things around there. So we have been looking for alternatives for people, and that was one of the suggestions. I don't know if Bob's got any answers to that right now. But we did receive your report here on what you put into the town hall. Not you, but the jammers, and it's always been a good working relationship, and that's what we're trying to continue here. So Bob, do you have anything around the town hall yet, or is that still in motion?
No, through you, Mayor Martin. I think you've framed it perfectly for the question. I have nothing more to add at this point, and that discussion will continue with council.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we had a gentleman here yesterday selling calendars for the Lions Club, and he was telling me that you
the lease that they had with the Lions Club was 25 years, I believe, and I think that's up the end of September. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I was asking him if they would have any problem, because what we have there is we have a lock box that we put all our speakers and whatnot in. And I was thinking when I was up there voting, when you come up the elevator, there's a jog in there, and maybe we could set that there, because to lug that every Wednesday up and down the elevator and all that stuff would be a real hardship for us. The other question I think that we have here is if we would like to maybe see if we could, I think it's the ramp is one of the biggest things. And then we could maybe open up and use it, and maybe until, you know, until we can get the rest of it done. But we're quite willing. We a lot of people that will give our support, and we can rebuild. I have a friend that would, he's an architect, and probably he would look at that and give us an architect drawing, whatnot, and then we might be able to go ahead and rebuild that if the council, with the council's approved, of course. I'd like you to think about that, because it looks like the Lions may not be in favor of us putting the box up there, so that's kind of a real problem for us. And maybe that's something that you guys can talk about and maybe get back to me. And like, I'm just representing the midweek jammers here, Mr. Mayor. Anyway, yeah. I guess maybe I'm taking Shirley's place, but I'm not as good as her. Anyway, that's about, anybody have any questions? Sounds good to me. Yeah. Keep going. Yeah. Anyway. That's fine. No, everybody seems pretty willing, Jimmy. We're just ready to go, I guess. So we'll leave it up to council and Bob, if you can get back to us as soon as you can, and we'll get hot to trot. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Like that's one of the reasons this is coming out. We got a lot of issues around the town hall, and as you know, there has been for years. That's why we're always hesitant on putting too much money into it until we have some direction of where we're going to go with it. So as of now, we know how important it is to a lot of groups, and the jammers are another, just one of them. And we're keeping everyone in mind on how we move forward here. And this issue that you have around equipment and that, we'll put that on the list too, that as we're working with the Lions on the new agreement, you know, we don't know what it's going to look like yet. We're meeting with them soon here to go over it, and we'll put this on the list too.
Yeah, Jim, just a little bit of history there. The town hall was built in the 1900s, eh? And an interesting thing, the tender for that was $2,895, if you can imagine, and they built it in 48 days. Isn't that something? And if you look right up at the top, you'll see there's a flat piece of cement and it says Town Hall 1900. And in the back, there's also the little thing in here, may fate decree the town hall will remain part of the village and someday become a provincial historical building. So I'm hoping that if we can go that way, that the council will sure be behind it.
Well, thank you, Pat. And that's the history things are always things that we need to hear about. We know a lot about it, but not everything. So any of those little notes you have, pass them on, and we can keep them in mind too as we move forward. So, but just, you know, let your group know that we are working on something, and hopefully we'll have something in place here in the next couple of weeks here.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, you and the council letting us get on to plead our case anyway. So we'll talk to you in the future.
All right. Well, thank you, Pat. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. If there's nothing else there, I'll look for a motion. Do you have any questions for the group before they go? Council? Larry, go ahead.
No question, just a comment, Mr. Mayor, through you. As has been stated, we know we're in consultation with the Lions regarding the lease agreement, but we are committed to support and help those that were using the town hall, and our Lions Center, as it's called, is a municipal building, so we're committed to look after and support the people that were at the old town hall, as well as others. So anyway, just a comment, just so they understand that we're going to look after people that need places. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else from council? If not, I'll look for a motion to receive the delegation. Councillor Webb, you receiving the delegation? Okay, Deputy Mayor Giroux, you're seconding that. Any other questions or comments around this? If not, all in favor? And that's carried. So we made note of that, Bob, and we'll add that to the list. So is there any other delegations? I have none scheduled here. Was there any called in or anything like that, Bob?
No, through you, Mayor Martin. Those are all the delegations.
Okay, thank you. All right, then. I was just wondering what council's thoughts are on taking a 5-minute break here and before we move into the staff reports for information. Is that good with everyone? We'll take 5 minutes here and come back and finish up this part of the agenda. So 5 after 11, we'll come back. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. Do you have a question, Barry? Or? Okay. 5 minutes. We'll be back at 11:05. All right then. Okay. I didn't get the little notice, so if it doesn't come back on again. Anyways, all right then. We'll get a motion to resume council. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. All right then, so we have some staff reports for information here. Is there any questions around those or comments? Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question for Wendland. Wendland, have we had any movement on reserve policy?
I'm currently working on that in conjunction with the budget documents.
So are we going to deal with that at budget, or will that come before budget?
I think it kind of goes hand in hand with budget because it may have implications on any of the vehicle or equipment schedules.
Is it something though that we should, if it's a policy, shouldn't we be examining it before budget?
It's up to council, but I was going to bring it to budget.
I just put it out there to the rest of council that if it's going to be a policy moving forward, I think it's something we should have nailed down before we start the budget process. That's just my thoughts.
Okay, Councillor Ellis.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in total agreement with Councillor Webb's comments, and I would think it would be a smart move to have that policy in place as much prior to budget as possible.
Okay.
I can bring that to the next council meeting then.
Okay then. All right, that's good. Yeah, I support that too. So yeah, if you could bring that at the next meeting, that would be helpful to move on.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions around these reports for information? The only comment I had was with regards to the grant applications, the summary that we have there. It's good to get a reminder on how many grants we've applied for and how many we've been successful on. So and some we weren't successful, but we've actually reapplied for one of them. So I think it was well done, and it's a good reminder to see the status of the grants that we've applied for. So thank you, whoever put that together there, Bob. That's in Wendland. Thank you. So, okay, go ahead, Councillor Webb.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add to that, Jim. Yes, over the past couple of years, even through COVID, I think our staff has done a super job in terms of procuring these grants and getting them ready for us. And I just like to pass it on to Wendland, the rest of Bob, the rest of staff, everybody that's in on these. I see Pete, Ryan on here. Thank you very much for your hard work, and let's keep it going, because if we want to move the township forward, it's it's crucial for a small township like this to get these grants in terms of if we want to get these big projects done. So I just would like to say thank you to all the staff for your hard work.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah. So I'll look for a motion to receive all the staff reports for information. We can receive them as a whole, can we, Bob?
Sorry. Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, absolutely. We can receive them all with one motion.
Okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux and seconded by Councillor Webb. Questions,
thanks.
comments? Yeah, with thanks. Thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion? And that's carried. All right, so next we have staff reports with follow-up action. And the first one here is the curbside pickup survey that was put out. Peter, do you have anything for that, or Bob, I guess? You're muted there, Bob, but
Sorry, through
You
you,
have
Mayor Martin. With the revised agenda, we have a report from our manager of public works, and we'll let him go first if that's okay.
okay. All right then. Go ahead, Peter.
Yes, good morning, Mayor Martin and members of council. This is a verbal additional report for Mr. Callaway at 17 McLean Avenue. He is asking council's permission to do some landscaping work at the front of his property, which involves a small piece of the township property just behind the sidewalk. His prescribed scope of work would be to remove the topsoil, sod and grass, and put down some riverstone, landscape fabric and riverstone to help his cause with aesthetics and also with the weeds he's having an issue with at the front. So
Okay. All right then. Yeah, so what's council's thoughts on this? Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. So Peter, just to be clear, it's behind the sidewalk.
yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, it is behind the sidewalk. I did meet Mr. Callaway on site a couple times now, and I've made it very clear that it cannot interfere. It has to be back from our sidewalk. It has to not interfere with any of our winter maintenance throughout the winter months as well.
Well, that was my primary question. And once it's off municipal property, I guess he can do whatever he likes, but it can't be a very big strip that he would be on.
No, I did not measure it through you, Mayor Martin. I believe it would be about a 3-foot strip behind the sidewalk that he would like to do his landscape project on.
So is that the knoll in front of his place there, Peter?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor Martin. Yeah.
Okay. All right then. So as long as he understands it's yeah, not to interfere with the sidewalk, it's I think it's one of those things where it's just that right of way for the sidewalk there, and he's kind of encroaching in that area. But if he's maintaining it, that's going to be the big thing. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
So one last question for Peter. Thank you, Mayor Martin. If there was a water leak, is the water main in the area that he's talking about? And if so, and we had to dig it up, would it be our responsibility to put the river rock back in the same way and so on?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. The curb stop for the property, it would be right in the middle of the Riverstone. We did speak to Mr. Callaway about that. That it would have to be visible and accessible to the staff with his Riverstone. And if there was a leak on the township side, which we would be responsible to replace his Riverstone, yes. But the curb stop is about a foot on the inside of the sidewalk in this case.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Okay then. So what's council's thoughts here? It's like it sounds like you've asked all the questions, Peter. So Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with this. Peter's been up and had a look at it a couple of times.
Okay, moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we okay this, and seconded by Councillor Webb. Any questions or comments to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? So, and that's carried. All
Thank
right.
you.
then. Thank you. So next, Bob, we have the curbside collection survey results.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. As per council direction, a survey was posted to the township website regarding garbage collection throughout the township. The survey opened on June 16 and had a closing date of September 1st. We did receive a total of 754 responses, with 348 in favor and 406 opposed. There was also a breakdown of properties located on waterfront and those not on the waterfront. And the survey responses are broken down in the report.
Okay, then. So it's another one of those things with the survey. It's as good as the education that goes with it. And there wasn't a lot of education with it as far as how it's done. So personally, I like, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Martin. Thank you for reminding me of that. And just further to the report, if council should choose to proceed with a request for proposals, it would be the intention of staff to make comments available to anyone bidding on that contract. And it would be our expectation that all those concerns would be addressed by companies bidding on the proposal.
Thank you. So with this, it's something that we haven't done for probably, I'm thinking 8 or 10 years. We haven't went out to an RFP or an RFQ just to see, you know, look for efficiencies. And I think it's something that should be looked at regularly, just to see where it stands. When we always talk about we're looking for efficiencies, this is something that all the other municipalities have and we don't. So there must be a reason for that. And I just think that we should be at least looking at it. It doesn't mean we have to go with it, but it would be interesting to see how the costs come in for something like this. So it's up to council, but it's just my thoughts are it's we should go with option 1 here. But what's your thoughts? Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, I disagree with you because first of all, it isn't a 50-50 thing. There's more opposed than there is for. Are we gonna flog a dead horse here and you know, try to be like everyone else, or are we gonna try to run our own township?
Well, we should read all the comments there because we should be looking at giving out free bag tags then and go with what the people want. And they're asking for free bag tags and more hours at the dump. They're not in favor of garbage pickup. So if we're going to improve the service, I totally agree with you. We should look at the service itself and maybe step it up a little bit to give them what they need. So so you can make the motion for option 2, and we'll just leave it at that. But the people, I have lots of calls of people asking for free bag tags, like 50 tags and all these things. So they're in the comments. So I think, Bob, we can just take the comments and we can review them at budget time and maybe help these people out. So, so Barry, did you make that motion for option 2?
Well, I haven't yet, but this is the topic that's at hand. And if we're going to go ahead and proceed with something else here, like you're talking about, that's another topic, but
that'll come up at budget.
Okay, but I would make an option that, or make a motion that we accept option 2.
Okay. That's good. So I do have a motion mover for option 2. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Ellis.
With a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, there was several comments as we've read. And I think that's the next step is to talk about those items that we can deal with at budget time. The other question I have is we're going to spend a lot of money at our 6th line transfer station for weighing. If we take the collection away from the 6th line, should that be a consideration? Because I know it's not just for household garbage pickup weighing, but that might be a part of the equation here when we're spending that much money to weigh the amount of stuff that's going in and leaving. Versus now, if we had went the route of collecting curbside, then it may have affected that reasoning. So anyway, I'm seconding the motion, and yes, we need to have a chat before budget about the items that are listed in the correspondence to the staff.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Webb, go ahead, speak to the motion.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, I completely agree with Councillor Ellis. We made changes to the waste site or with buying the scales here last year, and we haven't even really implemented that to see what kind of an effect it's going to have. And to Larry's point, yeah, if you're picking up that tonnage at people's houses, we're just going to be losing money on the other end. So I would be more in favor of a wait and see policy, and then maybe to your point, Jim, as you said, we can refer it to staff to look at maybe different ways, whether it be the bag tags or whatnot, to get some kind of relief out to these people. But in terms of just from what I'm hearing from people, I'm surprised at the results. Those were the survey results, because I'm on about a 3-to-1 against it of what I hear. But so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, so we do have a motion, and I totally agree. Wait till the weigh scales are in. That's some of the comments I've had, is the other ones that have weigh scales have garbage pickup, and they're not going to have the lineups that we're going to have trying to go across the weigh scale for every piece of garbage that comes in. So let's let it happen, and let's see where it ends up, and we can move ahead after that with one way or the other. So we have a mover and a seconder. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. So next, we have a report with the priority lists that were developed at the beginning of this term. A lot of things are done on there already. Bit of a Mickey Mouse way we did it, but it's done, and it's good to see that we've addressed a lot of the things on there. So what's council's thoughts here? There's the recommendation here is that we receive this information and we can use it to try and move forward. Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Sorry, motion to receive.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Webb that we receive the report. Deputy Mayor Giroux.
I'd like to second that with a comment and
Okay.
thank those involved for providing this report. I think it was well done. We've got something substantial to look at and move forward with. If we want to add, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's great because we can work on cleaning up our plate before the election, and letting the new council carry on with not such a burden.
Yeah. So I think everything's pretty well done on those lists, or 90% of it anyway. So we'll have to look for some new things to finish up the term, I think. But most of those things are either in action or have been completed. So I think in the future, before Christmas, we should try and update it to some new things that we've been working on. So I know the Economic Development Committee has a lot on the go, and it'll probably, that tourism strategy thing is something that they're going to be bringing out here real shortly. So, okay. All right. So I have a mover and a seconder to receive this report. All in favor? And that's carried. Next, we have correspondence, and we have one action item here, and that's Trent Lakes around the eyeglass or eye care, and just let me catch up here. The eye care is critical or whatever, and so they're moving that we speak to the Ontario government around eye care appointments. Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I support their resolution, and do they want us to just send a letter in support, or do they want a separate letter from our council?
Bob, did you, can you answer that?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, they're requesting support for the resolution, and we can certainly follow up and send that correspondence on to the appropriate authorities.
Okay,
So moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we support this. Seconder is Councillor Webb. Any other questions or comments around it? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Well, I just had a computer shut down, but I'll speak to this. I'm in favor of it. What is the Ontario government in negotiations now under this? Are we interfering with negotiations?
I thought they were negotiating it right now, but whether we're interfering or not, it might help with the negotiations that, you know, that we do, our municipality supports this, this resolution, so.
Just a comment.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I think they are working on it right now, but I think this might just, you know, maybe let them know where everybody's thinking, so. So I have a mover and a seconder. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, next we have a few that are correspondence for information only. Is there anything in there that anybody would like to speak to? If not, I'll get a motion to receive the balance of the correspondence.
Motion to receive, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Ellis. Any other questions around it or comments? Hart, did you have something? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. All right, so then we're going to move into I'm working off two screens here too. So the next thing we have here is, I think my computer's different than my paper, so. Anyways, we'll move into councillor activity reports. And the first thing we have on there is library board minutes. Barry, you have library board minutes there from August 19th.
go ahead, Bob.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Martin, County Council report prior to council activities.
All right, Dave, do you want to go ahead? That's not on my computer one, it's on my paper one. So. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure you'll have a couple. We had a full agenda for sure at our last county council meeting, September the 8th. There was a few issues. We had a presentation from Enbridge Gas, which they are going to present to our council. So we'll get that report from them, but it might be an interesting piece of information to know that there's over 1,000 kilometers of pipeline throughout the county, and they do pay around $378,000 taxes per year. They have 37,000 customers throughout the county, and so on. So, but we will get that report. The other thing that involves our township would be we had a report from Sheridan Graham and to do with the short-term rentals, which that's a work in progress. And this the review of these options are going to be in the future. They'll come back to county council and filter down through all the townships, I'm sure. So in consultation with Ron Keenan and Tracy Bertrand, we received that presentation. And I said the same thing last month, and I'm going to say it again this meeting, that it's a great opportunity to go on YouTube and watch the county council meetings and get informed firsthand. So anyway, that was a brief report of what went on last meeting, and you may have lots to add to that, Mayor Martin.
Yeah, no, you pretty well covered it. You know, as far as what goes with us, there was a lot of discussion around the new brusher head they bought for the equipment in the county, and it was finally agreed on after a lot of discussion. And a lot of the things revolve around trying to help each other out. So some of the discussion was most municipalities have their own brusher machine and sharing them with the county. Some of the discussion was maybe the county didn't need one, but in the end, it turned out that there's going to be some work on trying to share the equipment. So, and they'll use their equipment where they have to, but the townships will use their brushers too to help out, especially help the county catch up. They're way behind on brushing right now. So, and a lot of the other discussion was around the community safety zone in North Kawartha on Highway 28 and stepping up for photo radar and things like that. And some of my comments around that is all of us municipalities that are around Highway 7 and these major highways need to look at photo radar and try and calm things down. I know Councillor Webb's talked about it before. We need to get a handle on this, because not that it would have affected anything that happened last week, but even Highway 7 is out of control. And, you know, we need to do what we can to help kind of level things off a little bit. But Highway 28 has a certain section that's a real problem, and they're putting a lot of focus on that. But as a county, I think we need to look at all the municipalities, maybe get together here and create our own community safety zones. And Highway 7 for us is one of those areas that we need to get control of. So there's going to be a lot more discussion in the future on this, and I'm sure we'll be a part of it at our police service board meeting also. So other than that, there wasn't too much other that really affects Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. There's a bit more stuff on tomorrow. We'll have our next meeting, so we'll see where it goes for next week. But that's all I had with the county. Barry, you have minutes here from the August 19th meeting. Do you have anything to add to them?
No, I'd just like to make everyone aware of the library and support, because the photocopier and fax machine is costing them a wee bit to repairs. So they're looking at new and update. So everything is in there anyway. So
yeah. Okay. So
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion.
Okay, moved by Councillor Pomeroy and seconded by Councillor Webb. Any other questions or comments around the library board? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, and as far as my conference calls, I did have a call with Dave Smith last Wednesday. Supposed to have another one tomorrow night, but they're kind of hit and miss lately. So I don't really have a lot to report as far as conference calls. Our big talk last week was around the vaccine passports, and he's not getting a lot of flack on these things, supposedly. So anyways, we'll just keep that moving forward. I think a lot of it comes into effect tomorrow or the next day tomorrow. So we'll see where that goes. So yeah, and that's all I had as far as I had a CRO meeting last week. The minutes will come out for that probably by the next meeting. They've been as busy as can be around planning and building, just like our building department. They issued a ton of permits. I think it's 100 permits in 3 months or something like that. So lots on the go there. And there was a lot of discussion around the gut conservation area there and the parking lot and the road access. There's 3 municipalities involved in that to try and get a better road into there to help with liability. So We are starting budget deliberations now at the next meeting, and we'll see how that goes. So other than that, that's all I have to report. Was there any other councillor activity reports to come forward here? Larry, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything to report as far as attending meetings, but as a member of the Madison Property Committee, Ryan is here with us. In the last meeting, we talked about the communication with our Indigenous friends. It's part of the process that needs to be implemented or in place before we get too much further with the project back there. So I'm asking, Ryan's with us, if he could give us an update, if he has had the communication yet with those good folks.
Okay, Bob, go ahead. Ryan, okay, go ahead, Bob.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. I'm happy to inform council that yesterday we did receive a response, a written response to our inquiry. So we will now be addressing the comments in the letter. There is a fee involved as well. So we will be responding to that correspondence, and that can move forward.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right then, is that, did Ryan have anything to add to that? I'm not seeing any movement there. Ryan?
Yeah, nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right then. Is that it for liaison reports? Okay, I'll look for a motion to receive those reports. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy and seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. All right then, next written or oral notice of motion. I don't see any written, so is there any oral notice of motion coming forward here? Seeing none, we'll move into new business. And I don't have any new business here on listed, so with that, we'll catch up and we'll move into bylaws. And we dealt with two of the bylaws here. We have one bylaw here, comprehend. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just got caught up on my screen here. For next council meeting through new business or other business, I would ask staff to give us an update report on the Fish Hatchery Road.
Okay.
If you could, please.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so an update for Fish Hatchery Road will be on, can come forward at the next new business. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right then. So we'll move into bylaws, and we have one bylaw left here, which is a bylaw to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to prohibit development on land boathouses on Jack's Lake. I'll look for a mover. Moved by Councillor Webb. Seconder. Councillor Pomeroy. Any questions, comments? We talked about this anyway, so all in favor of the motion? And that's carried. All right, the next item is the confirming bylaw for today's meeting. Councillor Ellis?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just getting caught back up here again. I'm sure most of council and staff are aware our normal media coverage person is Donelda Frazier, who has been off with serious back surgery. Just so council are aware that has been done. She's gone through it very well and in recovery. So I got that information this morning and thought I'd share it with council.
Very good. Okay, that sounds good. I know she was in a lot of pain, so hopefully this helps out, and maybe she'll watch tonight for something to do, right? Just, anyways, see what she missed. All right then, thank you, Councillor Ellis. So I'll look for a motion for the confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Webb. Seconder. Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. And motion to adjourn, Councillor Pomeroy. And got a seconder to adjourn. Nobody wants to leave, so Councillor Ellis, all in favor, and that's carried.